today I'm going to share with you some news. Oh my goodness. I'm freaking out. Okay, so the news is, oh my, sorry guys, it is super hot outside, and I'm hoping that I'm not completely like a sweaty mess right now. Alright, back to the important stuff. The news is that I did go to my fertility doctor. This was my very first appointment with him, and I was really surprised. I was really surprised by some of the things he had to say. So let's start with number one. Number one, when I got there, previously to getting there, they had sent me a long sort of online form that I had to complete with my full medical history and history relating to my periods and my ovulation and all of that stuff. So I did that beforehand. So when I got there, I really didn't have a lot to do in terms of filling things out. So I pretty much got to see the doctor within 15 minutes or so of getting there. I did speak to a nurse, and they weighed me and took my blood pressure and did all those regular vital sign stuff. But then I got in to see the doctor within 15 minutes, and we sat down and had a talk. And the talk basically was him again sort of asking me a couple more questions. I let him know I'm on a multivitamin with DHA, or prenatal vitamin with DHA, and I'm also taking CoQ10, which my cousin had recommended for me to start doing, and he was happy about that. So thank you, cousin, for giving me that advice. And then I expressed my concern about my advanced age of being 38 and trying to do this, and he said actually it's really good that I'm coming in now and starting to try now, because he shared with me that at my age about 50 to 70% of my eggs are viable or good quality eggs, and then once you hit the age of 40, typically on average, everyone is different, but on average 70% of your eggs are no longer good. They're no longer sort of viable eggs. So actually after he said that to me, I was kind of like, oh God. But I was happy that I came in when I did, but I wish also that perhaps I had some foresight and I had known this information sooner so I could plan to start this process sooner. But nonetheless, he said it's a good time for me to come in now. And then he explained to me the process. I expected him, and I think I shared this before in my last update where I said I was going to have this appointment. I mentioned that, I expected for this doctor to be like, okay, you have to lose X amount of pounds before we get started, but he wants to get started as soon as possible. And I don't know, is that normal? Is that okay? I was actually surprised by that, and it caught me a little bit off guard, because I honestly thought that he would say yeah, you're right, we should wait, but he really wants to start the process now. And so let me explain what he said to me would be the process. So I got a ton of blood work done while I was there, and they're doing all types of genetic testing. I think the nurse told me it was something they test for 238 different things. And one of those things, besides genetics, is also, I believe it's called my CMV status, to see if there's, so CMV, I can't remember what it stands for now, but I'll try to maybe link some or put some information down below. But basically, it's where there's this virus that lives within your cells. It's sort of dormant, but so if you've ever had chickenpox or herpes or anything like that, you might be CMV positive. And so it's important to know your status, because when you're looking for a donor, you kind of want, if you're CMV negative, you have to have a donor who's CMV negative too. It's risky to have a donor who's CMV positive, because then you may infect your child with this virus in utero, and they can come out with sort of developmental issues and things like that. And it's just not a good situation to be in if you infect your child with the CMV virus. So, or CMV, because I think V stands for virus. So if you infect your child with CMV. So I'm waiting on that. So they did a lot of blood work. They also did an ultrasound, a vaginal ultrasound, because I have a fibroid, and I had it checked a couple of years ago, but they wanted to see if it had grown. So, and it's still very, very small, so they're not concerned about that right now at the moment. So now that I've had that done, I'm waiting for my CMV status, and then I have to, but he suggested then that he gave me a list of cryobanks. He suggested that I, order and start to look at different donors to place my order, because I'll need 2 vials to get started of sperm. So that's that. And at this clinic, they also mandate that you see a psychologist. So it's mandatory before you start the process at all in terms of, insemination, that you see a psychologist. And they recommended 2 that they use at their clinic. And that's so that you can be mentally, emotionally prepared. And also you can discuss how you're going to explain to your child, how they were made and where their father is, and be like prepared to answer those types of questions in the future, and just to make sure that I'm thinking of all the different all the different factors that come into play when you do decide to parent alone. So I have to schedule that appointment on Monday. So I have to do all of that before insemination. The other thing is, when I begin my period on day 1, I have to call their office to make an appointment for day 3. And then on day 3, I would go in and they would prescribe Clomid, or give me Clomid to take. And that's so that my eggs, I can have more than 1 egg mature for that particular cycle, so that when they do inseminate me, then the sperm have more than 1 target to go for. And then I asked about multiples, and he's like, oh honey, that's like a 7 to 8% sort of possibility that could happen. And when I think about it, like, honestly, if I have twins, I have twins. At this point, with my advanced age, in my old age, I really just, I know that it's going to be a lot more than I thought if I do have twins, but I'm willing to take that risk at this point. So I would go in day 3 for the Clomid. I would take the Clomid, and when I begin to ovulate, on the day of ovulation, I would call and make an appointment for that day so that I could be inseminated. I mean, it's possible, guys, that rather than starting insemination in November like I thought, I could be potentially starting in June, and that's only a month away. It's almost May 1st. May 1st is coming up on Monday, and that's, excuse my language, but that's fucking crazy. I really didn't think that, I could slow it down if I decide to, but I think I'm gonna go with it if everything is okay. So the other thing too I have to mention is, like, on day 1, not only do I have to call the fertility doctor to make an appointment for the Clomid, but I also have to call the radiologist to make an appointment to test to see if my fallopian tubes are blocked, because if my fallopian tubes are blocked, then I would have to go back into the fertility clinic for a saline ultrasound. I believe they do it there. But anyway, a saline ultrasound to see exactly what is blocking my fallopian tubes. And he said that if my fallopian tubes are blocked, there's no sense in me continuing the process of insemination at that moment. Because then that would be a waste of time, energy, money. Because if they're blocked, then there's no way that the egg can come down the way it should, so that I can so it can get fertilized and implant in my uterus. But if that goes well, if there's no blockage, if everything is normal, then I will proceed. And that's, I haven't processed it yet. This is why I'm still calm about it right now, because I haven't processed it yet. And I really think that I don't want to get my hopes up about anything. I don't want to get too excited, because I don't know what will happen. I just don't know what the future holds, and I'm just trying to, like, again, sort of take it step by step, not try to predict the future, not try to think of all the worst case scenarios. I'm trying to just, like, take it in and say, okay, we're doing this step by step. I've mentioned this before in a previous video. I'm just going to do this step by step. I'm not going to get ahead of myself or try to write my future. So yeah, that's where I am now. Surprise! Yeah, okay, that's it. I think I'm just trying to think about it now, but you don't want to see that. You don't want to see me thinking. So I will see you next time. Don't forget to keep the comments coming. I love it. And don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.